Right. I spend my life studying innovation, and I've done it for many, many years now. Literally thousands of companies I've studied all around the world over the last 40 years. And one lesson I take away from them, by studying innovation, by reading about innovation, and writing about innovation, is that if you don't innovate, you die. It's as simple as that. Industries die, firms die, the dreams of people running businesses, starting up and running business, die unless you're continually innovative. It's very hard to be innovative in such a turbulent world. Everything is changing so quickly. The average life expectancy of a Fortune 500 company is 15 years. When you think of all the amount of effort it takes to get a company into the size, to get into the Fortune 500, and it's likely to live there 15 years. A third of all startups in the United States die within 2 years, and half die within 4. So there's a lot of churn and turbulence in this environment in which we need to innovate. But there's so many exciting things happening. My background in automation was started 35 years ago when I was doing my PhD at Imperial College, looking at the introduction of computer numerical control machine tools in small firms. And I was visiting factories that were dirty and loud and smelly and hopelessly organized. And I remember going through design departments of big multinationals, acres of drafting boards and people working in horrible, horrible office-like factory hen conditions. And things have changed so much. I was recently in the McLaren Technology Centre in just outside of London. They design McLaren Formula One racing cars, but they also make cars. And it took me a while to realise I wasn't in an R&D laboratory, I was in a car factory. It took me a while to realize that because everything was so pristine, so well organized, so clean. It was just an extraordinary experience. I've also had the opportunity to visit Tesla in the United States and see how they make things, and it is incredible. I spent 2 weeks in IDEO, the design company, looking at how the next generation of products and processes, and organizational structures are designed, and the way that work is organized in these environments makes university departments look like, I don't know, military operations. I mean, it's just so chaotic, but also so brilliant. In my time at Imperial College, I walk around the corridors and I see the Data Sciences Institute and amazing work going on there. The work on bioengineering, where they're printing a liver. Thank goodness so many of us. There are 21 laboratories in robotics at Imperial College. Lots of work going on, lots of churn, lots of change, things changing. The CEO of IBM in Australia told me recently that at the moment, more transistors are produced in the world each year than grains of rice. And they're produced at lower unit cost. So all that possibility for connections. You see what's happening in things like Google car driving 1.5 million miles with one slight accident. A friend of mine has a Tesla car, and there was a problem with Tesla's acceleration up hills, and it was solved overnight by a software download. What's this? I can't get my head around that. It's a mechanical problem. You take it to a garage and get it fixed. You don't send a software update overnight, but this is the world we're living in. It's incredibly changing. It's incredibly turbulent, incredibly uncertain. A student in a dormitory in Harvard designs a system for connecting with other students, and in 10 years uses that to create a company worth more than the Bank of America. In 10 years. Incredibly difficult environment, changing environment. So how do we keep up? How do we manage to operate, succeed, thrive, survive in this environment? So just a few things about the policy perspective, because government's important. But if we look at the aggregate investment in science and innovation in Australia, it's declined by 20% in real terms over the last couple of decades. We have an election going on at the moment, and there seems to be very little discussion about innovation, or indeed about manufacturing. We don't recognise and celebrate the fact that manufacturing is the main source of productivity growth and export earnings in our country. We don't celebrate the fact that manufacturing is where R&D is undertaken, which benefits the whole economy. We have a massive deficit in capital goods. Our policies supporting innovation are inconsistent, piecemeal, and short-term. We have a lot of noise made, or when the National Science and Innovation Agenda was announced, a lot of noise was made about, we're going to put $1 billion into this agenda. Well, it wasn't actually $1 billion, because some of it was recounting and brought in from other areas. But as I point out, that's what Samsung spends on R&D every 3 weeks. So in a global scale, it's very small. So I suppose I was asked to be a bit controversial to start out, but my message today is don't rely on government. They're just not up to it. From a management perspective, what do I see in Australia? I see some fantastic firms and some fantastic managers in Australia. We've seen some examples this morning. But I've also seen many that are slow, cosseted, introspective, and not long for this world, I would suggest, actually. I see a lot of short-termism, and I see a lot of risk avoidance. It's a depressing picture because we don't calibrate correctly. We don't calibrate against the best in the world. Even our most innovative firms, maybe up to 30% of firms will claim that they're innovative in some way or other. They're mainly innovative in terms of introducing things new to the company. The number of innovations we introduce that are new to the world is tiny, and that is a problem. One of the things I see when I talk to companies in all different sectors is that every company I speak to and every industry I speak to says, well, we're different. We're different. You don't understand. We're different. Well, actually, most of the problems that confront managers running innovation are the same whichever sector you're in. There are different rhythms and time scales, but a lot of the problems are the same. And I'll conclude with just some of the things that I've learned about how to introduce innovation across all these generic types of companies. There's no substitute for high-quality managers who are technologically aware and globally astute, who can make long-term decisions on the basis of wanting to maintain the sustainability of their companies over the long term. To support that, there are a few rules that I've learned about how to innovate in successful companies. The first rule is that there is no alternative. You have to innovate. You have to continually innovate. The second thing is that innovation is a cultural issue. Culture trumps strategy, it trumps all the processes you have in place. Unless you've got an innovative culture, unless that innovation is ingrained in the DNA of the organization, it's not going to succeed over the long term. You have to have supportive voices. You have to have the right people in the organization promoting innovation, the CEO and thought leaders in the organization, at whatever level, whatever type. They have to be saying innovation is important for us because it's risky, some will fail, and we need to continue to invest this, often in the face of incomplete information, a very turbulent environment. So you need to say, the leaders have to consistently say, we need innovation, because without innovation, we die. Another rule is that organizations develop antibodies to innovation that seek out and destroy, kill innovation. Most organizations have got a level which I call the permafrost, which is mainly middle managers whose careers are dependent on doing things a particular way and they don't see any reason to change that, and whose performance indicators are very established and they don't want to change that. They're frightened of innovation, they don't like innovation. So you have to negate the antibodies. You see organizations where there's a lot of support for innovation at the top and a lot of interest and enthusiasm at the bottom, young people coming in wanting to do things, but the permafrost stops it all. So there has to be some systems in place, some processes in place, and some articulation from senior managers about how to overcome the permafrost. You need to find a balance in innovation. Innovation's a terribly imprecise word. I sometimes liken it to an aerosol spray, which smells nice, but it's really hard to grab hold of. You know, it's something we should do, spray it around, but what is it? Well, the definition of a successful application, commercial application of new ideas is good, but there's a range of innovation. There's those incremental changes, which are really important, small little steps that we make every day to improve things. Then there's some changes that involve a bit of diversity. You're getting away from your core market or your core technology. And then there's, right at the top end, those technologies which you need to keep an eye on or indeed be involved with, which are going to be transformational. And your portfolio will change over time where you invest, but you need to have a position in each of those areas of the portfolio. And finally, I think one of the most important things we need to do in innovation is to celebrate our successes. We're actually very poor at that. We're quick to point out failures, and failures are okay provided you learn and move on quickly, and you fail quickly. But we don't celebrate our successes as much as we should. We're on to the next thing. We have to, rushing around, got to go, so busy, we have to go on to the next thing. But innovation requires risk, personal risk, organizational risk. So when we get it right, we have to party like mad. That's my message. So thank you very much.